How's it going, everyone? Dan Nicholson, nth degree CPAs, cfeclass.com, wealthqa.com, so on and so forth. Jumping on real quick with Nick to update you guys on the PPP, the Paycheck Protection Program, or what other people are calling the forgivable loan. Today is April 2nd, and supposedly tomorrow, April 3rd, banks will be opening the doors for these PPP applications for businesses. If you're a sole proprietorship, apparently that application date's been pushed out, so April 10th. We do have the sample application, what it looks like, and so I'm going to share that real quickly here. So here's the Paycheck Protection Program application. This is a sample from the SBA website. You do not apply for the PPP through the SBA website. It's confusing. If you want to apply for the disaster loan, you apply for that through the SBA website. You apply for the PPP through a bank, credit union, etc. That's an authorized SBA lender. So banks and credit unions are the ones that are actually facilitating the PPP lending process. It's just sponsored by the SBA. And so this is a sample application. We've got instructions down here about completing the form. The part that I find most interesting is where it says this should take you 8 minutes to complete. So right here it says this should take you 8 minutes to complete. That's mostly true, except as we go up here, we pick which type of business, are we self-employed, so on and so forth. What's our legal name, DBA, doing business as, or trade name. That's if you have a different name than what your legal entity is that you're doing business as. For example, my company is called Three Peaks Accounting Services, but the DBA is nth degree CPAs. Business address, EIN or social security number, address. And then we get down here to average monthly payroll, because the amount of the loan is going to be calculated based off this average monthly payroll number that you enter here times 2.5. And the number of jobs is based off full-time equivalent number of jobs from last year. So you got to add up all your hours divided by 2,080, and you'll get a full-time equivalent. Now there's a lot of confusion about this because down here we got, well, payroll, rent, mortgage interest, utilities, etc. That is relevant to how you're going to use the loan, because after you get qualified for the loan, in the 8 weeks after the loan is originated, the forgiveness is going to be calculated based off how much you spend in these areas. So yes, you can use the loan for payroll, rent, interest, utilities, and interest on other business-related debt, but the amount of the loan is calculated based off payroll. I've had a lot of people asking some questions about, like, well, don't I include rent, etc., in the calculation? No, it's a payroll number, and there's a specific definition for how you arrive at that. The rest of the form is some yes or no questions that you can answer, and those do only take a few minutes, but you got to get this number up here correct. So I put together a spreadsheet. Nick, can you see the spreadsheet?
Yeah, it's a beautiful spreadsheet.
Okay. So determining your PPP loan amount. So this is intended to be something you can give to the bank along with some supporting documents that they need. So you put in your borrower name, nth degree CPA. So when I type it in, it's not going to be yellow anymore. EIN. Okay. When was the business started? So select from the dropdown. If you select after February 15th, 2020, everything is blacked out. Okay. You don't qualify for this program. Okay. If you select 2020, but on or before February 15th, then you're going to fill in data over here for 2020 information. Okay. And the specific data is going to be the data from January 1st through the end of February, February 29th. We had a leap year this year. If you select before 2020, then we need to enter in how many months were we in operation. Let's just say it's 12. And then we need to answer, were any of our employees or any of the employee gross wages or contract payments greater than 100,000 on an annualized basis? Yes or no? If you say no, then you can just come right here and enter in totals. If you say yes, it's going to give you this alert. It says, please go complete payroll details and/or contractor details tab. That's because we're only allowed to include wages on an annualized basis up to 100,000 per person, including owners. Contractors paid up to 100,000. And so in this case, you need to enter in more specific month by month details to figure out if you're going to hit that $100,000 annualized limit. But if you don't have anyone that you paid more than 100 grand, including on an annualized basis, meaning if you paid someone $10,000 a month and they started in August, you would not have hit 100,000 for the year, but because their annualized salary would be 120,000, you have to reduce the amount, the monthly amount from 10,000 to $8,333. Why? Because that amount is annualized to 100 grand. What I did though is I made a tool for you where the math will be done for you. So you enter in each employee's name. I have Nick Peterson. I have Pete
Nickerson. Yep.
Nixon. I have Dan Nicholson. I have Nan. We're not going to do that last name because now it's starting to get it's getting weird. So we'll just say
that's Nan. Yeah, that's Nan Jones.
Clearly, I didn't think out this all the way when I started doing those examples of names. But you'll notice as you put in these names, it populates down here, these other names. Okay. If you have more than the number of spots that I've allotted, then insert a line. Okay. And you'll need to also insert a line down below. It's not going to automatically add the lines for you. And so you're going to put in gross wages. And so let's say Nick got $8,333. And then he gets 9,000 in March. Well, it's going to reduce down, and looks like a formula that I'm going to fix, but it's going to reduce down the salary from 9,000 to $8,333. So the formula automatically will do this for you. Okay, I'll fix this one right here that duplicated. But if I came over here and I put in 12,000 or 120,000, it's going to reduce it down to 833. I'll fix that for you. And so the workbook's going to do it for you on your own. Also, you might give somebody a bonus. So say that they're making $6 grand a month. So on an annualized basis, that's 72,000. And so we have $6 grand a month all the way across. Okay. So on and so forth. So it's going to total out to 72,000. Okay. And these formulas will be fixed in the final version that you'll get. So it's 72,000. But then in October, they get a $30,000 bonus. Well, 30,000 plus 72 is 102,000. We can only take 100. So down here, it's going to update and recalculate for you at 100 grand. Okay, so the formula, all this calculation stuff for wages is going to be done for you. You just need to log in the employee gross wages by month. And so this could be really quick if you didn't have any raises over the course of the year. Then you're just pasting the salary all the way across for each employee. But you do want to, if you've got raises or bonuses, that's where there's a little bit more heavy lifting. Now you'll notice over here, this is blacked out, and that's because we selected before 2020. But if we came over here and we selected this right here, then the opposite is going to be the case because your business started in 2020, so we need to fill out the data from January and February. Same with over here on the contractor tab, where we're going to enter in contractor payments, and the total column is going to reduce it down to 100 grand for you. Okay, so set up the workbook to do all the math for you, and then it totals up at the bottom, and then those totals, I'm just going to switch it back to before 2020, this total automatically pulls through. So when you hover over here, it gives you this little comment that says this formula pulls in the adjusted wages from the payroll details tab. If you do not need to complete the payroll detail tab, then override this formula with the total wages. So if you didn't pay anybody more than 100 grand, then you don't need to put in all these individual details. So you could just come in here and key in whatever the total is for all wages. Also, and same with contractors, you get the same exact folder. And then you have this field over here that says, these are only necessary for hourly employees. And the short there is that paid time, paid vacation, etc. For salaried employees, their wages are their wages. And so sick time, etc. is already included in their gross wage. So it would be duplicative or extra work for you to break that out. So if they're all salaried employees, you don't need to fill all that stuff in. State and local, state payroll taxes, local taxes, that's the total for the year. Health insurance total for the year, retirement benefits total for the year. And then down here, it's doing all the calculation for you, all right? And so if we're only in operations for 10 months out of the year, then the average monthly expense would be divided by 10. So that's gonna automatically update for you. If this number happened to be, I'm just gonna hard key in something here, so large that 2 times the amount is more than 10 million, then it's gonna cap it down here and tell you you got capped at 10 million because the maximum amount of this loan is 10 million. So that's the workbook. Once you've got this salary amount, this total right here, that's what we put in this payroll amount here, times 2.5 equals the loan amount. So the workbook gives you all those details, the total, and you'll have something you can give to your lender to show them how you arrived at that, those details. So I hope that's helpful. I'll fix the formula error I found that is always inevitable when you start going through this process. But that's the heavy lifting here. The rest of it's yes or no. Nick, anything you want to add?
No, it's pretty foolproof. I will just add that any private clients, anybody that is in CFE class, if you have any questions, plenty of ways for you to ask. You know how to ask your questions. I believe there's going to be some updates tomorrow, the day after that, and we'll keep you, we'll kind of keep you on top of, you know, contractors versus W-2 and all that stuff.
That's right. Yep. We don't know for sure that we can include contractors and how that all works. We think we can. We don't know definitively. So there will inevitably be updates to the workbook. So we'll send those out to you when they're available.
Yep. And you go to cfeclass.com/oasis, and any updates regarding any of the disaster loans, any of this stuff, anything COVID related, we'll make sure that if nothing else, you get a replay and some of the cliff notes from the updates.
Perfect. All right. Thanks, Nick. Thanks, everyone.